I don't know. There's something about me. I'm super happy with my girlfriend. It's the best girlfriend I've ever had in my life. But then there's still something about me that oh, there's something shiny. You know what I mean? But I thought it was really interesting. They said basically 90% of relationship success is just picking the right person at the beginning. Seems high.
And I feel like now I've discovered my true love language, but 10 years later, I might decide that was another reaction to something.
It's not. You are a bitch.
Oh, that's my love language.
Yeah, me talking bad to you. It's always your love language.
The dirty, demeaning talk.
Welcome to the Derelict Podcast. For the disparaged, depleted, and delinquent souls trying to find our way, we're talking about the scary part of the journey, where we don't know how it'll end. Let's be free to face our fucking failures in real time as the most unadulterated, truest version of who we are. No sugarcoating. Welcome to the shit show, you derelict.
Hey, just working on some new, pickup lines.
Awesome. You got to add to that toolkit, I guess.
Was that a pickup line even? That was lame.
No, it was.
You're working on your
openers.
I've been practicing this one on Instagram. I heard it really works. If you're a female listening to this, you will know that this one works. When a female posts a pretty picture and the dude sends her a message, what does the message say? 9 times out of 10.
Flame emoji.
Hey. Just, hey.
Yeah, and it works. That's why they use it, because it works.
It doesn't fucking work. Who does it work with? The hey works?
Hey, or just flame emoji. Every time.
That works, though.
I don't know. I don't slide into people's DMs. It's not my thing.
This is a great way to start a failure in dating podcast with you just talking about really great ideas for dating, like saying, hey. All right. Sounds good. Well, what are we talking about today, Tyler?
Today, we're going to dive into the difficult parts of dating, the mistakes, the traps, especially as derelict divorced dads from our perspective, right? Today's episode is Failure in Dating, a Divorced Dad's Guide, Part 2. This podcast is about being in the middle of failure, not about the success we've had. So we're going to be talking about exactly that. We're going to be talking about the mistakes we've made, the traps that we've discovered and identified, and then what we're doing to avoid them.
This episode is sponsored by Cialis.
Here's what we're going to talk about: how we failed, the traps and mistakes, being claustrophobic, and parents dating parents. What are we not going to talk about, Josh?
Well, Tyler doesn't want to discuss what happens when you stuff a baseball up your anus. Okay. And Josh doesn't want to discuss why every woman falls so madly in love with him because he doesn't want to sound like an arrogant asshole. Yeah, that's a good one. Good call.
I was actually talking with a nurse yesterday that actually had a call last night where they had to go remove a baseball up some poor guy's anus because he shoved a baseball up there.
Oh, seriously? That's where that came from?
And it destroyed his colon, and he will now have to poop out of a bag for the rest of his life. But they got it out using one of the vacuum tubes that they suck a baby out when the baby's in breech.
What the fuck? Seriously? Mm-hmm. Wait, how old was this guy?
I think in his 50s. This is all secondhand, but it makes you think twice before shoving something up your ass.
Do you do reverse psychology with your kids a lot? Because you literally just started with not wanting to discuss that, and that was the first thing you discussed.
I should do reverse psychology more, but
it worked really well.
It obviously works on me, even though I wrote that line.
You're reverse psychologying yourself.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, what else, Tyler?
Well, we always have to introduce each other with scripts that the other person wrote. So let me go. I am so incredibly grateful and amazed that Josh is on that show with me. This show, talking with him about dating will be like visiting Mecca, the Holy Land, or the pinnacle of whatever your belief is. This is a true dating expert, folks. So honored to be in your presence, Joshua.
Oh, thank you, Tyler. That was so sweet of you to read and write that yourself. Well, I know that after studying under Tibetan mystics, Tyler has unlocked the secrets of transcendental meaning. And I'm ready to finally change my life into something that contains an ounce of significance. Good idea.
About time.
Been waiting a while for that.
All right, Josh. Do you have any stories for us in how you have failed recently? What's your latest failure, specifically in the context of dating this time?
Let's see. Well, I was going to share this story a little bit later on, when we're talking about another topic that we're going over, being claustrophobic in relationships or commitment, that sort of thing. But I recently got done with a 6-day Tony Robbins event, which was amazing, called Date with Destiny. A little plug here. If you want to see kind of what that's about, watch the Netflix documentary, I Am Not Your Guru. There you go, Tony Robbins. He just paid me $1 million for that ad. And I did it with my girlfriend. And I think day 4 was relationship day. And she was having a really hard time on relationship day because of other things that were going on. I had also just gotten court paperwork a couple days before, again, for my next court date, which is tomorrow. And that I didn't share with you or really anyone. And we were having a rough time. And I was like, fuck this shit. This is relationship day. Like, she better get in line and know how to be in a good relationship. And it was literally just me putting it all on her and blaming her, being codependent, kind of following her for her moods. How dare you, ruin relationship day with me? If somebody else was here, it wouldn't be ruined. That was pretty shitty.
That sounds like a rough time for both of you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, mainly for her. I didn't respond very well.
How long did it take you to redirect?
I don't know, maybe half day, maybe less. It was a lot shorter than it used to be. A couple years ago, that would have taken me a couple days, maybe a couple weeks at times.
There's progress then.
Yeah, definitely. Progress, not perfection. I love it. What about you? How have you failed lately? You got to up mine now.
So last time we talked about dating, I shared that my most recent failure was kind of ghosting someone and avoiding the breakup conversation. This time I'll share, I sped that time frame up. I set a deadline and I broke up with someone a little bit faster, but I still did not stick the landing and it was still kind of messy. I did a lot better, but breakups are still my number one area I need to work on and improve on, which, obviously no one wants to have a long history of breakups, but when you're dating in the initial stages, then that's just inevitable. And I think one of the things I learned was that I could have been more honest with myself earlier to break up sooner. And the sooner you're honest with yourself, the sooner that you take inventory, the easier it is to cut things off with someone rather than waiting for a whole bunch more dates to then go back to the beginning, understand what they want and what you want, and realize it's not aligned.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I usually use the same language in business with clients, right? The faster I can figure out if that's a good fit or not, the better for everybody involved. Definitely the same way with dating. I heard the other day, I don't know where the statistics are to back this up, so don't yell at me if it's wrong. But I thought it was really interesting. They said basically 90% of relationship success is just picking the right person at the beginning. Seems high.
Yeah, but it also makes sense. I mean, I deal in the world of business partnerships, joint ventures, and landlord-tenant relations.
Low-key flex.
I found that 90% absolutely sounds right for whether that relationship's going to be successful or not, is picking it at the beginning.
Yeah, makes sense. I don't know if I've ever tracked clients that closely, but I think it's probably the same. The ones that have been with me forever.
It's definitely that way with my kids. The ones I get to pick.
The ones you kept?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Well, that would be more like 75%, right? Or no, 66. I don't remember how many you kept and how many.
It's a long list.
Yeah, it is. All right, got it.
Last time we talked about the mindset of dating, the personas you put on, the keys to success, and a lot of the initial stages of the relationship. And I wanted to talk about the traps and mistakes, especially the traps that you get into when you start dating, that you end up wasting a bunch of time. You end up in really unhealthy relationships. You end up hurting people. Those are the kind of things that I want to talk about today.
Is there one you want to start with?
Let's go with being claustrophobic.
Okay. Yeah, this is something that, I don't know, I think it was interesting earlier. You already referenced this. You are right now, we just happen to be in a spot where you're early on in the dating game again, right? Because it recycles. And I'm longer term now in the dating game, being with my girlfriend for almost 16 months, I guess. I sound like a fucking parent with a child when I said that. Ugh, gross. Edit that shit out. All right, almost a year and a half. Whatever. Anyway, that weirded me out. You can tell the anti-commitment stuff is already coming up. I'm already claustrophobic just having this conversation. Anyway, the point is, I think it's really interesting to think about this concept from when you're beginning to date, and then also once you've been dating for a while, and of course, all the way to, partnership, marriage, everything else. Because I feel like you can be claustrophobic in all those stages. Like, what would claustrophobic look like to you as far as like it's too much or it's too smothering or it's too whatever early on in the dating process? What would that look like to you, do you think?
So if you define claustrophobia as the feeling of pressure and the walls caving in or closing in on you, then I'd say something I've identified recently is anytime that I'm reducing my options, it feels like the walls are closing in a little bit, right? So if you are dating multiple people and you're trying to narrow it down because your end goal is to have a one person monogamous relationship, then you start with, it depends on how you approach it, right? You can go one at a time, or you can start like most people on dating apps where you go out with a bunch of different people and you, as soon as you realize they're not a good fit, you cut them out, and then you eventually end up with one person. But every time you cut someone out of your life, you're giving up an option. And I've noticed that feels claustrophobic to me, to give up options, but that's what you need to do to be authentic and to work towards a more intimate relationship with one person.
Yeah, that makes sense. I resonate with that as well, especially having one girlfriend right now. I definitely resonate with that because my goal at the beginning was to go on as many dates as possible. Like you said, meet as many people, have fun, all that sort of stuff. There's something else for me too. And I think this is kind of like a reaction to codependency, I think is what it is. As somebody who's suffered with the disease of codependency in the past, I think an element of anti-codependency is anytime I feel like a woman is more into me than I am into them, although it's good for the ego, it also feels very claustrophobic to me because I'm so not used to being nurtured and just doing what everybody else wants me to do. I think there's just this element where it's like, oh, that's too much.
Right.
Which I think is interesting because, I mean, don't we all want that? Isn't that the whole point? Don't I want love and connection? I do. But the closer it gets from any woman, the more I'm just like, oh, okay, all right. And it's not because I don't like them. It just feels like too much.
Well, I think it's impossible to not have that happen though, right? Because at one point or another, one person is going to be more into than the other person. It's not going to be exactly even. If it is, that's usually because both people come in so intense that they lack healthy boundaries and they're both codependent.
That's true. It's just, I've never experienced it where it wasn't the woman being way more into me. So I just don't know what that's like.
That must be so hard for you. I'd say that feeling of claustrophobia with having someone more into you, a part of that is triggering your mind saying, this feels familiar. I was here before, or I was with a partner that was in this space before. I don't want it to happen again. You can't always identify it, but a lot of times anything that feels like you've experienced it before is going to either feel really good or really scary.
Yeah, that's true.
And I feel like a lot of these traps are pendulum swings. So we go one way or the other, depending on what we experienced in the past. And it's a reactivity to something instead of being intentional about setting up what you want to act like in the future and what you want to pursue.
I wrote several things down here that I feel like kind of all go together for me. And that is just the sense of commitment and feeling claustrophobic. I feel like there's so many different elements to it. It's almost like a pendulum, right? Like on this side, you have open relationships, dating multiple people at the same time, kind of open and free about whatever it is that you're doing in all the relationships, right? Let's say maybe, I don't know, very little commitment to anybody. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
On this side of the pendulum? Okay. And then on this side of the pendulum is like, I get married to one person at 18 and I'm married to them until we both die when we're 88 years old, holding hands, notebook style or whatever the fuck, right? And then you can clearly tell from my cynicism which side of this I might fall on. But I guess for me, obviously, as you could probably imagine, the closer we get to that pendulum side of it, of holding hands when we're 88 after being together for 70 years, the more claustrophobic I feel. And I wonder, we talked about this a little bit last time. A lot of that is just based on insecurities, feeling like, do I really want to just be with one person forever? Do I want them around 24/7? Do I want to just have sex with one person forever? Do I not want to be able to flirt with anybody anymore? Like all along the spectrum. And I just think it's interesting how people are so very different on that spectrum, and they have their reasons and their ideals and everything else. And I used to be a lot more on the spectrum of, I thought we were going to be married till we're 88 and hold hands and die together peacefully, because I thought I was in a really healthy marriage when I wasn't. And now I think I'm getting far enough out where I'm not reacting as much to the marriage, and that's not making me claustrophobic, but it still kind of is. Like, I still just, I don't know, there's something about me. I'm super happy with my girlfriend. It's the best girlfriend I've ever had in my life. But then there's still something about me that like, oh, there's something shiny. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And sometimes that just comes from a place of a core need that's not being met, but it doesn't necessarily need to or is supposed to get met in that relationship. And you just have to dig into what core needs am I still thirsting for, and how else can I get them met?
I think a big piece of the whole claustrophobic nature for me is not necessarily the labels or the label being put on it. So it's not necessarily if somebody's called a girlfriend or a partner or a wife or those sort of things. I don't know. I don't think those really are difficult for me as much as maybe just timing and what's appropriate, what's not. So like, am I hanging out with this person 24/7? Then it feels really enmeshed and codependent. Like we need each other all the time. And there's nothing else in the world, kind of a Hallmark movie, I guess. We just complete each other. Like that stuff sickens me. So is it just less time? Maybe. I don't know. Time makes the heart grow fonder.
I think it goes back to understanding what your core needs are, how you're trying to get them met, and what your expectations are. And even as simple as understanding what your love language is, right? So if your love language is quality time and you have a need in that phase of life or that week, we'll say, to have that love language met, then you're going to want to spend a bunch of quality time. Or your partner has that love language and they're going to want to spend all that time. But it can't go on forever like that. But there are certain periods of time that if that's one of you or your partner's needs, you're going to have to put a bunch of time in to get that love tank filled up.
Do you think love languages are a result of insecurities within us?
I think they can be. They can present as that. I think I recently kind of reevaluated my love languages and realized what I thought was a love language was more of a reaction to other stuff. And I feel like now I've discovered my true love language, but 10 years later, I might decide that that was another reaction to something. So you could be right.
It's not. You are a bitch.
Oh, that's my love language?
Yeah. Me talking bad to you. It's always your love language.
The dirty, demeaning talk.
For me, I've found the love languages have been a reaction to me in the past. In other words, I was always really high in physical touch, but then I realized it was because I didn't really get the nurturing touch I was desiring. And then once I started getting that nurturing touch, it wasn't the top love language anymore.
Yeah.
That's happened to me several times where I've just noticed that the more progress I make on an insecurity, the less it shows up in the love languages, which I think is interesting. And I don't know if that's, again, just me or if I wonder if there's a study about that. If there is, we should post it right here and get paid for it.
Link in the bio.
Yeah, link in the bio. We'll find it. The study's in the bio. Just click.
So if we circle back to being claustrophobic and that being possibly a reaction, where did you land in terms of being able to pursue a consistent, steady, long-term relationship without feeling like the walls are caving in?
This is the longest relationship I've had that would fall into those classifications you just gave. And it's only been a little over a year, like I said earlier. So I don't think I'm the right person to ask about that. But I know for up until now, what's helped is what I was talking about before, and that's just space. We have our own lives and we live in different places. And then we spend a lot of time together, but we also spend a lot of time not together. And I just don't ever see me wanting to spend 24/7 with somebody ever again. It has nothing to do with the person. I just like my space. I feel like it makes me a better boyfriend when I have that space. Just like I feel like it makes me a better dad now that I have space with my kids being divorced. I don't know if you found that at all with your kids because you have your kids a lot more than I do, but
I think space is huge.
yeah. I mean, I have a buddy that's been with his girlfriend for 5 years and they still do the same thing. They live together like, 4 or 5 days a week, maybe if that, and then spend a couple days apart every single week. And it works really well for them because they both need their time and space for themselves. And I respect that relationship a lot. And I feel like that really could work for me long term. I know it doesn't for everybody. I have another buddy who just basically spends every waking moment with his partner and has for years. So I don't know, teach their own, I guess.
Well, I think it's important when I see a lot of people that say right up at the beginning, I value independence, or I want someone that respects my independence or something, but that could mean anything. So I think it's important just to really define what that is early on, because there's a limit. You could be so independent that you never see the other person, and that really doesn't work for them. I know people that really spend the majority of their time apart and then spend a small amount of time with their partner, and it works for both of them. I think everyone's different.
Yeah, as do everything in relationships. It comes down to communication and being honest and vulnerable about it and just where you're at, right? Again, as a guy who's dealt with codependency in the past, it's hard for me to do that sometimes because I just want to make them happy and do whatever I need to do to make them happy, when sometimes the truth and vulnerability hurts, right? Like, what if I share that I don't want to be around this person all the time? They're like, well, I want to be around you all the time. And they get hurt. I know that's not on me. I'm not saying that it is. That would be a codependent reaction.
But it's hard to bring that up when you know that that's a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to hurt the other person. But I'm telling you what, for anyone listening, and you, I'm sure, have all experienced this before. And if you have not, you will. If you do not say it, it will be worse. It always is. It doesn't matter what it is. Whatever it is you're thinking about not telling your spouse or partner or girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever right now, just fucking tell them, because it's always going to be worse if you don't.
Yeah, it'll build up and blow up and cause resentment, and it's never good.
Either you're going to work through it now or you're not going to work through it. If it just gets worse, you're not going to work through it later. So you're either going to work through it now or you're not. Just man up and fucking do it.
And if you're avoidant, then something that can be helpful is just setting a date on your calendar. You don't have to schedule it with the other person, but set a deadline for yourself and say, all right, this is when I'm going to talk about it. Whatever I have to do to prepare ahead of time to get my thoughts together, I got to do by this date. And I'm going to talk to them tonight or tomorrow night or next week. Whatever it is, set the date so that it doesn't just bleed on forever. And if you're someone that once you have the thought in your head, you just want to blurt it out, setting a date a little bit in advance can be helpful, just to give yourself time to prepare so that you say something in a loving and respectful and articulate way, instead of just blurting it out as soon as you had the thought. And I struggle with both. I bounce between being avoidant about certain things and then feeling like I'm going to drag it on, so then I reactively share too soon. And so setting a date makes a lot of sense, to give yourself just enough time to prepare, but not too much time.
I really appreciate the honesty and vulnerability, because we've all heard you blurt out many times on these podcasts. So the fact that you can own that is fantastic.
Pretty much all I do is blurt.
Coming from me. So speaking of what I blurted out earlier, as far as just man up and fucking do it, I say that, but I didn't multiple times. I mean, I knew this probably truth in my marriage for years and years and years and never said anything about it. And then I got into another relationship right afterwards, and that lasted for a year-ish, and I didn't do it there either. So, I've had to learn the hard way. If you're listening, hopefully you haven't had to learn the hard way yet. Just do it. I'm telling you, the more honest and transparent you can be in a loving way, 100%, the sooner the better. I just don't really see anything that can be improved upon by waiting, except for that scenario you said, where you're just kind of a blurred out person, which I am. And you're just setting a date in order to not say something rash. And
it's a short-term waiting. It's not 2 months from now. In looking back at long-term and short-term relationships, the other trap that I'd like to talk about is the projection of possibility. And what I mean by that is when you live in the projections in your mind of what could be. So you're projecting on that other person. I think you could be this amazing partner if you just did this or that, or you don't know enough about them, but you're like, from what I see, I could infer that we could have this cool thing going together. Or a long-term partner where you project, if they could only change this and this, then we could get along better and we could make this work. That projection of possibility, whether negative or positive, is not reality. And so wherever that projection is coming from, if you are not being very careful to just look at the facts of what they've told you, how they've acted, what other people have told you about that person, it's all going to derail you and either keep you in a relationship too long or make you react in a way that ends that relationship because of your behavior. Either way, that is a big trap that I see in people getting into relationships and staying in relationships.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I can't change people.
Doesn't work.
I can't control them. I can't take over their free will and make them do what I want them to do. If I could, my life would be a lot easier than it is right now. Trust me, there's a few people that I would love to have that power over, but I don't.
Even if you're not trying to change them, I think just making an honest assessment about people and the relationship and the dynamics is important. Like, don't credit people with what you would do if you were them. I do that a lot. I'll be like, oh, well, if I were in their shoes, I would behave this way. And I just give them the benefit of the doubt that that's how they are approaching it. And people are very different, and that is not probably how they're going to approach it. So giving them the benefit of the doubt, while it's kind, is not always the smartest thing to do. And assuming their intentions doesn't work. And assuming that even if you're not manipulating or trying to change them, just projecting into the future these assumptions or ideas that don't align consistently with reality ends up fucking everything up.
Yeah. I mean, what you were saying about benefit of the doubt resonated with me a lot. And maybe it's just because of how I try to live my life. But I don't want people to always give me the benefit of the doubt. Not in a way of just being like, oh, that guy's never going to do the right thing. That's not what I mean. I mean, at least people that I care about and that I love and that I trust, that are friends or whoever, I want them to help me stay aligned to who I am, right? To my true nature, to what my identity actually is. And we say things like, everyone's doing the best they can, and let's give the benefit of the doubt. Those are two of my favorites. When is everyone always doing the best they can? I mean, if that's true, then there's a lot of people murdering a lot of other people, and that's the best they can do. Like, I don't know. I can't buy that phrase. And I hear it all the time. And it's people's way of trying to maybe be forgiving. Well, just be forgiving. Don't say that they're doing their best. They're not. You can be forgiving. That's different. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me because of that. And because I know that my personality is very different than a lot of other people's personalities, maybe most people's personalities. So if I'm projecting the way I would handle things, that doesn't necessarily mean it's right. Right. That's the other thing is, yeah, of course, I want to be able to be there for somebody and help them live out their true identity. But I also don't, like, I'm not the best judge of that. I can be a judge of that and I can help. But if I'm going to come in and be cynical and critical and everything else, well, that's really going to help. Right. I mean, I know, especially as guys, like, we love it when people criticize us. Just absolutely love it.
We're
right? Like,
really good at accepting it.
Really good at accepting it. Yeah, absolutely.
So someone said something to me that rocked my world when they said it, but since then I've heard a lot of other people say it. So it's apparently a common turn of phrase that I hadn't heard before. And that is, accept the version of themselves that people show you they are. And there's different ways of saying that. But the idea is, look at people's actions, not at their words. So if they're telling you, I'm just such a kind person, or I'm just so conscientious, but their actions don't align with that, listen to their actions, not their words, and accept the version of them that they are showing you. And that will save you a lot of trouble. And listen to who they say they are early on. This is something that my therapist shared with me recently, of saying, look at the things they say. Like, people reveal a lot that you just kind of ignore in the first several dates or the first few interactions. They'll say, I have a lot of walls up. I have a hard time getting close to people. And then you're surprised 5 months later that they
when they have their walls up and it's hard to get close to them.
You just think that people kind of just say things. And I don't think that I listen to people enough to be like, you actually meant that when you said that.
That's true. You don't.
you don't want this, or you do want that, or you have a hard time with this, remember that stuff. Even write it down, because that is what you are signing up for if you continue a relationship.
It's really true. And I think what you're bringing up is a really good point too, where people do it, kind of that self-deprecating humor, right? So that you don't actually take them seriously. That's how it's always presented, at least from my experience, right? It's like, oh yeah, I have my walls up. It's like some thing where we're just supposed to laugh about it when they're actually telling you who they are.
Right. And yeah, it can be done sarcastically. It can be done in the form of a story that they share. And it's not 100% all the time that, sometimes people say a joke and they don't really mean it, but it's just something to notice and take inventory of.
Well, and one thing you were saying earlier too is something that I think about a lot, is that actions, not intentions, right? We all intend to do good things. We all intend to be healthy. We all intend to eat healthy foods. We all intend to exercise. We all intend to spend good quality time with our children. We all intend fill in the blank. Intentions, from my experience throughout my life, are worth about as much as the shit on the bottom of my shoe. It doesn't mean anything. Actions are what matters.
Yeah.
Like, I've had a lot of conversations about this with different girlfriends in the past where you're like, well, I didn't intend to do that. Like, it also comes up in fights or emotional. I didn't intend to do that. Okay. Again, I don't really care what you intended to do. It's what you did. So just own it. Like, I'm not critical and against you here because you did something wrong. But what I'm critical and against people on is when they don't own it.
Yeah. And it goes both ways. Like, I have caught myself saying things like, oh, I didn't mean to hurt you, or I didn't mean for this to happen, or I didn't. And the reality is that whether it was conscious or not, still there are consequences to the actions and choices I made.
For sure. And for myself, I know that if I say, well, I didn't intend to do that, it's a very self-centered, selfish, defensive response from me, because I am just trying to prove in a court of law that I am justified and that I am correct.
Or that you're not a bad person.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with the other person, versus if I can just hear how they're feeling and just respond to their feelings and their emotions and try to empathize with them, then that's always about the other person, and that's always showing love. And that's definitely not my first reaction most of the time, as you can probably guess.
Who would have
knowing
thought?
me? Well, Tyler, you mentioned earlier in the podcast, we're talking a little bit about going from relationship to relationship, breaking up. And, we started the first podcast with talking about dating. We've talked a little bit about long-term dating, and maybe we should spend a little time talking about kind of how breaking up is hard to do. Curious, maybe let's talk a little bit about this in terms of a bunch of different relationships, whether they're short-term or long-term or a marriage or a partnership. I'm just thinking about short-term because there's a Seinfeld episode about the bad breaker-upper. And the guy basically just says whatever is the most annoying thing about the person as he breaks up with them. So he breaks up with Elaine and he just says that she has a big head. And she's like, oh, haha, it's not even that big of a deal. And then she just starts walking around and birds start flying into her heads. And like cab drivers ask her to sit down so they can see through the back window. And, now all of a sudden she's noticing she has this big head, right? So obviously plug for Seinfeld always, because it's the best TV show ever. But my point with that is I think that is me when it comes to short-term relationships. When I was on this spree of dating many younger women in like a couple-year time period, I would only go on a few dates with every single one of them and get bored. Literally, the one that lasted the longest was 3 dates. I know, I'm a terrible person. I get it. Throw pies at me the next time you see me out. But the point is, there's only a couple dates, and pretty much every single one of them ended badly. Like, I just didn't give a flying fuck. It was a very selfish time of my life.
Did you just brutally roast them, or did you just stop talking to them, or did you just self-sabotage to the point where...
A self-sabotage was the main one. Like 90% of the time it was a self-sabotage where we get to like 3 dates and then I would text them something stupid, like just that no one would ever text anybody for no apparent reason. And literally, I wish I would have kept all these texts because I could make it into a bathroom book.
Oh man, I wish I had those too.
Oh man, it would be so funny. And I'm now imaging all of these women in my head right now, and I can remember a lot of their names. And man, it was just one thing after another. And even things that I didn't even think I was doing to try to end the relationship, I definitely was. I mean, I was kind of a douche about it. So I don't know. For me, that's a great way to end a short-term relationship, is not to be like that guy, because it was all born out of insecurity. Like, I was with one person for basically my whole life. I went out, I started dating. I had no idea how to date in my mid 30s and made a lot of mistakes. That was one of them.
And that's the person you're trying to avoid for you guys that are just starting to get in the dating world, is the person fresh out of a long-term relationship with everything to prove and nothing to lose, that just will fuck up your life just for the fun of it.
However, a caveat to that is the one good thing about that person is that you're not going to see them for very long. So that is better, though, to see that person a couple of times than to get into some abusive relationship for 10 years, Tyler. See?
Yeah. I mean, we just discussed what not to do. What we talked about with one of my failures, don't ghost them either. So you don't blow it up and don't ghost them. So I think the best way, and this could just be very obvious to everybody, but the best way to break up with someone is to try to give them honest, authentic feedback if you think that they want it, and do not give it to them if they don't want it, or even if you have any doubt that they want it. Be as simple and concise as possible, and do it as quickly as you realize that you are ready to move on, or you're not willing to entertain, or you're not willing to continue to explore that relationship. If it's not worth it, if it's not exciting, if it's not appealing to keep exploring it, then cut it off quickly and concisely. Is that a fair assessment?
It is, but I do have a different perspective on one of the things that you said. You said, if you have a feeling that maybe they wouldn't be open to it, don't provide any feedback. And I think it might just be my nature of trying to be more upfront these days than passive aggressive, where I'm like, I don't know, man. If you lean too far that way, maybe you miss somebody that could have heard it, and maybe it could have impacted their life for the better in the future. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I get what you're saying, and I probably should lean more that way since I can be a semi-aggressive person. And maybe that's part of the reason why I have such bad experiences with all these short-term people. But if I could redo it, there is definitely one thing I might redo. And that's not necessarily what I said, but it's how I said it or how I presented it, because maybe it could have actually been helpful to that person if I would have done it a different way instead of kind of the jerk way that I did it. I just don't know if people, I'll just speak for myself. I won't speak for the rest of it. Maybe I'm the only crazy person out there. But for me, when I go on dates and a woman feels a certain way that makes them not want to go on further dates with me, I wish that they would tell me, because I want to learn. Like, I want to know, well, what was it? And how can I maybe impact this next time? And I feel like most women don't share that information, at least from my experience.
And I think the reason is because most men don't receive critical feedback very well. And they've learned it's not worth sharing. So
absolutely,
if you feel comfortable
that's
sharing,
definitely true.
Then share. But if you don't feel like that person's receptive, it's really on you as to what you want. And I don't think we are obligated to share feedback with someone who didn't ask for it, I guess is my point.
Yeah, I agree. I just was going dark there in my mind. If it was some dramatic way that they could share feedback with me, like send me something in the mail that wasn't totally kosher with a note, then I'd remember it, right? Something crazy. I'll just let you use your imagination right now because I don't want to say it on the podcast. That's not that kind of fun.
Big enough.
So yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to say about short-term relationships that you've learned, or of the many one-night stands you've had, and any difference that you would change with those prostitutes, the one-night stands, any of that?
All the things that I haven't done. I just say, like, the thing that's still a mystery to me is that final goodbye. Like, you get out what you have to say, you can plan that out, but you don't know how someone else is going to react. You don't know where the conversation is going to go, which is all communication with other human beings. But that final goodbye is always just so awkward. Whatever stage of the relationship, short-term, long-term, when you realize this is probably going to be the last time you talk to that person, it just feels weird to everybody.
I mean, it's sex every time, right? So does like the sex feel weird that one time because it's going to be the last time? Is that what you're talking about when you're saying goodbye?
Is that how you say goodbye to people?
Yeah. Relationships, always, 100% of the time.
I will offer my final fuck as an offering to you.
No, not at all. I've never even had sex. I'm a virgin. But yeah, I agree with you. You know, I've seen a lot of friends go through this as well, where, oh man, I mean, we've talked about boundaries before. Boundaries for me with ex-girlfriends sometimes is harder than current girlfriends I've experienced. We're like, where am I at with this relationship? Can I keep talking to them? Am I never going to talk to them again? Do we want to try this friend thing? Can we not do the friend thing? Do we need space? When's a good time to get back together or just talk again? Right. I mean, there's so many different things. With our ex-wives, we don't really have these choices because we have children with them. So we do have to communicate with them and everything else. But with like an ex-girlfriend where there's nothing shared or common, I don't know. That's what I kind of struggle with. Thankfully for me, there was only really one difficult one that I figured out and had to have some boundaries around. And all the other ones, like I said, hated my guts because I didn't do well ending the relationship.
You had a very specific process you went through that really tied up loose ends. Yeah, I think that the whole idea of like we can remain friends thing is hard. If there are shared relationships, then it is going to have to be that way, right? Unless you want to blow up some of your other relationships to create that boundary, and you may need to. But for most of the time, if you're meeting someone on an app and you have no shared connections, then it's easy to just say goodbye forever. If you have shared relationships in any way, then there's a good chance that you're going to see them again, and you got to approach it a lot differently. In terms of long-term relationships, I think the longer the relationship, the closer you were, the more boundaries need to be in place. So I think it's a conversation that needs to be had when you break up, and it doesn't have to be had in the same conversation. A lot of times, long-term relationships, whether marriage or long-term partner, it's a series of relationships to get to that point, because that point is so more impactful, right? It's changing your life. If they've moved in with you or you have introduced your families together, there's a lot of stuff to work out. And so it's usually several conversations, and you're talking about boundaries, you're talking about, who gets the dog or whatever it is. It's complicated and it's not going to get figured out overnight.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, I think about the only quote unquote long kind of girlfriend that I had, besides who ended up being my wife. I never even introduced her to my kids. Right. So that brings in a whole new dynamic, because my current girlfriend's met my kids. We've hung out several times together, et cetera. If that ends up in a breakup, that'd be a lot different than the one that never met the kids. You know what I mean? It's really, really clean with her. It's like, well, we saw each other. We didn't run in the same social circles, literally have one friend in common. And we always end up talking about her every time I get together with that friend because it's that commonality. And, I don't want that to last forever, but it might. Hopefully you're listening. If you are, love you. You know who you are. But that being said, I agree with you. It really depends, especially when you have kids, if they're involved with the kids or not. It's just like a marriage, right? If you get out of a marriage and you didn't have kids together and you're not really in the same social circles, that's a pretty, I don't want to say easy breakup, because no breakup is easy. I'm just saying it's a lot less complicated than if you have children and all in the same social circles and everyone is doing things all together and you happen to hate your guts. That one's a little bit more difficult.
Yep.
The person's guts, not your guts, or your guts too, I guess, either way.
Yeah. So I think the game plan for that, depending on the type of separation, it can be contentious and attorneys involved. And that point, we're not talking about that. But if you're talking about just two adults that are able to communicate and articulate what they want and need, and you're talking about breaking up, then it is a process of defining, this is what I need out of moving forward. This is what I want to accomplish. This is my definition of success. And then listening and hearing what they want and seeing where you can align and compromise, set your boundaries, and move forward.
I agree. I mean, that's really important to do. And I think very few people do it, from my experience, just from what I hear about people. Like, I hear many more stories about some sort of dramatic trigger that ends everybody's relationship versus calmly getting together for coffee and kind of chatting about, well, here's my ideal for our post relationship. And here's my ideal. You know what I mean? Like, I think that sounds great. I'm not making fun of you at all. I think it sounds amazing. I just think it very rarely happens. And I think also a lot of people, and this is myself included, and I could definitely do a better job of this, is that maybe the best time to have that conversation is not when you're fucking emotional and you want to break up.
That is like, what I was referencing. It's never in the breakup conversation. That's like a month after, or maybe longer.
Or 6 months after, maybe. Who knows? Depending on the relationship.
And rational. And you're like, all right, this is happening. We both agree it's happening. So how are we going to approach it as two adults? That does never happen in the same conversation as when you first realize it, because most people don't realize it at the same time. So one person is very upset. The other person is trying to just get it out that they want to break up. That's not the time to talk logistics.
I heard this the other day too. Something you said earlier triggered my mind. because I've been a big fan of the whole boundaries concept for a long time. We talked about it on the last podcast, the book, and everything else. Then I also heard somebody with a different perspective of it just the other day since we recorded the last podcast, which I thought was interesting. And he basically said something to the effect of, if you're creating boundaries or walls around yourself, you eventually suffocate yourself. It was something like that. Wasn't an exact quote, but I thought it was a really good point as far as what we mean by boundaries. So for me, a boundary is something that I need to put in place for myself to make sure that I'm living out my own values and morals and identity. That's what it is for me. I think where a lot of people get misaligned with boundaries is they think, well, this is some rule that I'm creating for someone else, and then there's going to be some sort of punishment, even though I'm not calling it punishment, right? So I think for me, it's really important to clarify that, yeah, when we're going to have boundaries, talking about this conversation as we're breaking up, for me, it's more of like me just going to the table and just being like, look, this is kind of what I need. And just opening that up to the other person and figuring out if the other person is willing to help me with my needs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like for me, I really think if it's probably important that we don't talk for the next 6 months because I'm just too attached here and I'm too emotional. I just don't want to fall back into old patterns, etc. And then just see what they say, right? They don't have to say yes, but then I can block my number if I need to, or do some other drastic measure if I need to do that. I don't know. I just don't hear a lot of those conversations where somebody has this really nice, calm, logical conversation after a breakup, telling each other like what they need from each other. I think that's actually pretty beautiful, but I just don't hear it happening very often. Do you?
No, but I think it's necessary. If there's any relationship that's going to continue in any form after the partnership, if you will, then that has to happen. And boundaries are, like you said, an expression of your needs, but also that can be the guidebook to say, if we're going to have a healthy relationship moving forward, this is my needs for this relationship. These are the boundaries to make this relationship successful. And if you don't do that, then you're going to spin your wheels, and that relationship probably will come to a point where you're not talking at all if you don't have that conversation at some point in the beginning of the next phase of it. It also depends on, like, say you have a new partner. They may have a different comfort level in terms of, oh, you still talk to your ex. A lot of people are not okay with that in any form for any reason. And so it's a matter of having that conversation too.
Yeah, you're actually bringing up a good point. And that is, in these breakups or even in these relationships, how soon do you introduce exes? Or specifically in my situation or your situation, like if we're dating somebody and they're going to meet our kids, do we want them then to also meet our ex? Or do you want to meet your ex's person, or, et cetera? It's important for me to know who's going to be around my kids.
Right.
Or what if you're breaking up with this person and your kid is really attached to them? What does that look like? Do you keep in contact for your kid's benefit? And can you do that in a healthy way? And can you do that in a way where you're accepting each other and hearing what they need from it, et cetera? It gets so messy. There's so many different things, especially when there's kids involved, at least for me. And that's honestly why my dating experience has been pretty, just not a lot of baggage from it, frankly, because none of them have met my kids until this recent one. So it's just a lot easier when there's not a lot of other people involved.
Yeah, I would just say on the kids thing that there's an ideal perspective that it's like, oh, it would be nice if we could just all get along. We could still meet up and the kids don't have to deal with a severing of a relationship. But at the same time, it's okay for your kids to have to learn how to say goodbye to people, and that not all relationships last forever, and deal with that disappointment and work through it with them. And, as long as you do it correctly, I don't think that sacrificing your own boundaries so your kids can maintain a relationship with someone who really doesn't need to be in their life makes sense. It can go both ways. If you can figure it out, great. If not, just, I think, prioritize healthy boundaries above disappointing your kids.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if anyone is listening to this that's similar to me, I have a really big protection desire for my kids, which sometimes is unhealthy because sometimes I don't want them to get hurt at all, right? And I will try to do everything that I can so that they don't get hurt, so they can still be in this person's life, et cetera, when the person is being difficult or abusive or, whatever else. Not towards my kids. Obviously, I would not accept that, but I would accept it towards myself.
Right.
Before in the past. If they're being really rude to me and not respecting boundaries and everything else, I will look past that, quote unquote, for the children. But at the same time, it might be better if we all just walked away, right? And that's good for kids to see. Kids already know that relationships don't last forever. How long is their best friend for 3 seconds and then they have a new best friend when they're young, right? I don't think any of my kids' best friends have lasted longer than a year so far. That's how best friends go. But maybe it's because they've moved around a lot too. I don't know. But the point is, they already know that relationships don't last forever.
Yeah.
So why try to hide it from them if we're keeping something that's unhealthy just to try to keep the status quo?
I think one of the best things you can do for your kids is show them how healthy boundaries work, how to say goodbye to people, how to put an end to relationships that aren't healthy, and that you're sticking up for yourself if you're not being treated well. And that goes for any kind of relationship. But I think how we live our lives and the healthiest version of ourselves is the best example we can give our kids.
Is that why you keep letting your kids' pets die so that they learn how to say goodbay?
Yep. I wait till they go to bed, then I smother their pets in their sleep. So then we have the burial ceremony. It's very cathartic for everybody.
Pet cemetery.
Tyler's Pet Cemetery. Oh no.
Please, can you make that book? I mean that movie? Book. Who reads? Can
It
you make
was a
that
book.
movie? What, Pet
Yeah.
Cemetery?
Stephen King.
Stephen King,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Yeah. Did you read it?
Nope.
Oh, neither did I. Did you listen to it?
Nope. All right. I think we are at time. Let's do our conclusion.
Good transition, Tyler. Anyway, so key takeaways from the episode. So glad that you're here. We talked a lot about how we failed in dating. We talked about traps and mistakes, being claustrophobic, and what that means in short-term relationships, long-term relationships, multi-dating, open relationships, anti-codependency, all those sort of things. And I think for me, the whole being claustrophobic thing, a lot of that, as I mentioned before, just comes from insecurity. So for me, I have to constantly ask myself, hey, what sort of anti-commitment insecurity thing is happening for myself? Why is that making me feel claustrophobic versus focusing on what somebody else is doing wrong, that sort of thing? That's at least kind of what I learned from that section. How about you, Tyler? Anything stick out to you there?
Oh, just that claustrophobia can feel like the walls are closing in all sorts of forms. So it is just listening to yourself. Why am I feeling this? What insecurities there? What core needs am I not getting met? And how can I meet them in a healthy way?
That's good. We talked about projections of possibility, talking about the way relationships could be or the way the relationships couldn't be, or if they just start doing this, then this will change, or maybe if we do this, this will be better. We talk about this a lot, but one of the things that I always think about as far as that goes is the odds are the relationship and the person are not changing. That's just the odds, right? Most of us don't really change them. We do change, but it usually requires some sort of major event. At least it does for myself. So when I heard that stat that 90% of success in relationships just came from who you pick, I think it makes a lot of sense, because the person that you meet, even to your point, Tyler, you're bringing up those ideas of what people say, even first, second, third dates that we don't pick up on because we're not paying attention, or we're so focused on what it, I'll put this in my words. I'm so focused on what I want to say or what questions I want to ask them that often I miss what they're telling me. I miss that they're telling me that they want to be married as of 8 years ago and have children and have their own children and everything else, when I don't want any of those things, but I don't even hear that because I'm like, yeah, she probably doesn't really mean that. And we project what we want on them. So that's a great way to kill relationships for sure. Anything else you want to mention on that topic?
I heard someone define love as being willing to accept someone for exactly who they are if they never change. And there are lots of behaviors and idiosyncrasies that I just flat out won't accept in people, and that's okay. But I should not be in a relationship with that person if I'm not willing to accept it. And people's behaviors change over time. That doesn't mean that once you said you love someone that you have to accept everything. I love that definition because it means don't go into a relationship with someone if you can't love everything about them exactly who they are now. And don't get deeper and more intimate, more vulnerable with someone if you have things that are on your list to change about somebody.
Yeah, for sure. Then we talk about breaking up is hard to do and how different that can be in a short-term relationship or a long-term relationship or a marriage or a partnership. You got to hear about old Josh. Oh, Josh, that's what I call him. Breaking up with everybody in a bad way, the bad breaker-upper. Thank you, Seinfeld, for that. And we talked a bit about how that can be different with long-term relationships, how complicated it can get with kids or other shared animals, shared people, shared whoever. Can make that a lot more complicated.
And that's just something to note when you get into the relationship. I would count the cost of the shared relationships if I got involved with someone at work or that, mutual friends or whatever it is. Just know that if it goes south, there's going to be a price to pay.
For sure. I get that. That's why I have to keep hiring new assistants.
God.
That was a joke. So we talked a lot about codependency again. We'll mention Codependent No More by Melody Betty. I never get her name right. Again, I would also mention there's also for communities that you want. If you're feeling like you're codependent or have some other addiction, which I would call that. I'm a big fan of the 12-step community. They have communities for different things like that. Codependent Anonymous started really as kind of a reaction to Alcoholics Anonymous back in the day, and it's around, and there's a lot of really great programs, so check those out as well. And since we're talking about relationships, and I didn't quote this on the first relationship podcast, I kind of wanted to say this quote.
Speak it into existence.
Speak it, well, it's already in existence. So Tiffany De Bartolo, which sounds like a good Italian name. I think Tiffany sounds like a cool person.
You got to read this in an Italian accent now.
Like a fake Olive Garden American Italian accent?
Whatever you want. It just has to be an accent.
All right. This is only okay because I'm half Italian. So my Italian brothers. Unless it's a mad, passionate, extraordinary love, it's a waste of your time. There are too many mediocre things in the life, and love shouldn't be one of them.
That was a combination of several accents. That was
Tiffany De Bartolo, Dream for an Insomnia.
All right.
That just threw all the Italians back hundreds of years. Yeah. So what it actually says, unless it's mad, passionate, extraordinary love, it's a waste of your time. There are too many mediocre things in life. Love shouldn't be one of them.
What a powerful statement. And I think some people say that they have high standards and that's why they are having a hard time finding someone. But at the end of the day, I feel like if the motivation is there to find a life partner, if you will, then more often than not, we are tempted to settle versus keeping our standards too high. And so I love the idea of saying that love should be one of the highest standards we have. It's also having a partner that motivates you and drives you, encourages you to be a better person. It's one of the most leading indicators for successful, ambitious people. So it's going to change your life one way or the other. The energy they bring into the relationship is going to affect you. And don't settle when you are picking somebody because there are too many mediocre things in life.
Wise words from Tyler. Thank you so much for joining the Derelict podcast. We are a podcast of beat down, burned out, negligent bastards. We look forward to hearing from you again. We would invite you to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Thank you so much, Tyler. It has been a true honor and pleasure to speak with you today.
And you, Josh. This has been Derelict Podcast on NPR. Tune in again next Saturday morning for the exciting conclusion of Dating Part 3.
You, the goofy music.
All right, you have to get back on the road.